Thank you. Well, we are here to welcome the mayor this morning for the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Good morning.
Good morning, council members. It's good to be back in familiar territory. First of all, if we can get someone to bring the presentation up. There we go. This is the one time of the year that we really get to celebrate the accomplishments of the previous year. As all of you know, and with the exception of Councilmember Maniscalco, for whom this is his first budget, all of us have been together for the last 4 years. And it has been a difficult time for our city. It's been a difficult time for our state, difficult time for our country. We have emerged from the greatest recession since the Great Depression. And that, I can tell you in no uncertain terms, and you know this, has taken a toll on our finances, taken a toll on our ability to do what we would like to do. But I think we have persevered throughout this budget, and we have done so in a fiscally responsible way, balancing the needs of this community with the strategic investments that we need to make as a community, trying to do the best we can to get ahead of the deferred maintenance that had occurred for 5-6 years. We have emerged out of this recession, I think, in pretty good shape, all things considered. Now, I say that with this caveat. This budget that I'm about to present to you is not sexy. It balances the budget, as we always do, unlike our friends in Washington, D.C. Local government doesn't get to kick the can down the road. Those of us who serve here recognize that we have to balance that budget. Revenues have to meet expenditures at the end of this process. And we have done that. We have done it without raising the property tax millage. You should be proud as a city that we have not done that in 4 years, and you should be even more proud that we as a city have not done it since 1988. That is a record that I think all of us should be proud of as we maintain our fiscal house and we run this budget in a very, very conservative fashion. But this budget is not going to include a lot of glamour, but it gets the job done. It continues to make strategic investments in our infrastructure. It continues to put money where money is needed and money is warranted. But at the same time, we all need to recognize that we are $23 million less in property tax revenues than we were in 2007. In spite of the gains that we have made as a community, in spite of the increased permit activity, in spite of the increased valuations, our ability to recapture that money that we lost as a result of the decrease in valuations of our residential property is going to take a long time, and that is largely because of the 3% cap on residential properties. It will take us decades, perhaps, to get back to those 2007 numbers, although we will continue to try. So I set that parameter for you as we move forward. I couldn't do this today without the amazing staff that is behind me, particularly Sonia Little and Mike Perry and the folks in Revenue and Finance, that literally we start this process in January. It is not easy. These folks have worked a lot of hours to get to this point, to make all the pieces work, to put this budget to bed, balancing the needs of the community, balancing the desires of the City Council within the confines of the revenues that we have. So I stand here before you to make this presentation, but it's the people that behind me that really made this possible, and I am eternally grateful for the amazing staff that we all have, and thankful that they will be with me for another 4 years as we proceed down this journey. So let's get started. All right, these are the goals of what we have attempted to do this year, and obviously this is on the screen for both you and for the folks in the audience. We intend to put this budget, talk a little bit about the legacy of the recession, talk about some of the investments for our future. We're going to look at the 16 recommended budget overview, and we're going to look at the capital improvement program, the enterprise department budgets, and then we're going to get to the budget calendar that you as City Council will set. The last couple years have been positive for us. I think all of us would acknowledge and recognize that this is a different city than when we started 4 years ago. It is a place that has become the choice of intellectual capital, of young professionals who are flocking here in droves. The days of us losing our best and brightest to places like Charlotte and Austin and Raleigh-Durham are over. We have become that destination. Not only are our sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters not leaving for other places, They are coming back here after college, and they're bringing their friends with them. 12,000 more people in the city of Tampa are working than there were 4 years ago. Our unemployment rate, and I want you to think about this, in 2011, our unemployment rate was 10.6 when all of us took office, with the exception of Councilmember Maniscalco. In April of 2015, this year, our unemployment rate is down to 5.1%. In 2 out of the last 4 years, the Tampa Bay area has created more jobs than any place else in the state of Florida. And we have to thank our economic development partners, the EDC and Rick Holmans and our friends at the county, for helping us to move that needle. It has been an exciting time for us. The growth of our residential development is astounding, with more to come. There are 10,000 more residential units in the works between Tampa and West Shore, bringing those young people to our community in droves, which will sustain our economic development for the next decade. Some of the things that we have tried to do in this budget and focus on are things that I think you would be proud of: protecting our children, enhancing our quality of life, investing in our infrastructure, balancing the budget without, and let me underline that because we've all struggled with this for the last couple of years, without tapping the reserves. And then streamlining the budget and regulatory process. Protecting our children, enhancing our quality of life, investing in our infrastructure, balancing the budget. It's bad enough me one at a time. You don't need to hear this. We've all struggled with this for the last couple of years without tapping the reserves. I know we're not tapping the reserves. I just said that. Protecting our children, enhancing our quality of life.
I wanted to emphasize it for,
We can eliminate CTTV. It's bad enough me one at a time. You don't need to hear this. We've all struggled with this for the last couple of years without tapping the reserves. I know we're not tapping the reserves. I just said that. All right.
I wanted to emphasize it for,
We can eliminate CTTV. It's bad enough me one at a time. You don't need to hear this.
all right, well, we're going to hope that
Tapping the reserves.
we're working on getting it.
I know we're not tapping the reserves. I just said that. All right.
I wanted to emphasize it for,
We can eliminate CTTV. It's bad enough me one at a time. You don't need to hear this.
all right, well, we're going to hope that
Tapping the reserves.
we're working on getting it.
I know we're not tapping the reserves. I just said that. All right.
I wanted to emphasize it for,
We can eliminate CTTV. It's bad enough me one at a time. You don't need to hear this.
well, we're going to hope that
Prone to use them have led to some really tragic circumstances. So we wanted to make sure that to the extent that we could, we got these young people off the street and away from the seduction of the gangs and into our recreation centers. I think you would be very proud to know that it has been an amazing success. You know, we opened the parks up and the recreation centers for 7 days a week, and we opened them until midnight. We offered free recreation cards to teenagers. We doubled the capacity of our camp programs, and we quadrupled the number of scholarships. So far, we have served over 6,300 young people in our summer camps this summer. Those are 6,300 young people that are not out on the corner, possibly making bad decisions and being in harm's way. Over 900 teenagers have signed up for a rec card. So I think by all measures, that investment was worthwhile. Even if it cost us a couple $100,000, you can't put a price on the life of one of our children, and I think it was an investment that was worthwhile. As all of you know, we also engaged in a gun buyback program that took over 500 guns off the street. Now, you can argue about whether or not the criminals are going to turn their guns in. They're not. But to get the guns out of houses that potentially are candidates for break-ins, where the guns will end up on the street, those 500 guns are 500 less guns that will potentially fall into the hands of criminals. We are establishing an after-school All-Stars program in partnership with the Hillsborough County School Board. It is a national program targeting kids at risk, and I think it has worked successfully in a number of cities around the country. It has no impact on our budget. It is funded by the After-School All-Stars. We are heavily engaged, as all of you know, in trying to end veterans' homelessness. The president issued us a challenge. I, along with a number of other mayors around the country, agreed to participate. Operation Reveille last year, led by Vanessa McClary, took 80 veterans, literally off the streets, on Veterans Day and provided housing for them. In 2015, we are looking to house approximately 160 veterans, homeless veterans, get them off the streets, wrap them with services, and give them a roof over their heads. Our goal is to end veterans' homelessness in this community as we know it. We're investing in, obviously, our urban core. All of you participated in the Envision project. That laid out the blueprint for development for this community in the urban core and all the neighborhoods that touch the urban core, hopefully for the next 20 years. It is a significant investment. We had 1,800 folks in this community participate in some way, shape, or form, whether it was online, whether it was in the charrettes, whether it was in the walking tours, whether it was in the meetings. It is designed to create a livable, walkable, pedestrian-friendly, transit-oriented environment with the downtown as the hub and all of the neighborhoods from Ybor City all the way to North Hyde Park and West Tampa connected. Connected physically, connected literally, connected emotionally, and I think it will provide for us what will be a master plan for what is to come in this community. All of us have seen the development starting to leap the river. I mean, 4 years ago, we set out to do that. We set out to make the river the center of everything that we do, and it is happening now. Starting at the Armory, which will become the Jewish Community Center, in a partnership with our Parks and Recreation folks, moving all the way through North Hyde Park, extending all the way to Columbus Avenue with the West River Project. You saw the announcements for the Tribune site. There will be others forthcoming as we look to develop the west side of the Hillsborough River. It is an amazing opportunity for us. We've developed 3 new parks in our urban core. These parks are not inexpensive, as we all know. Waterworks Park, which has been an amazing success. We just broke ground, and some of you were there 2 days ago at Perry Harvey Park. Perry Harvey Park has been a decade in the making. It has not been without its challenges, but we have overcome those. That park, I think, will be of significance not only to the young people that will play there, but the opportunity to pay homage to the history of our African American community in a substantive, symbolic way, I think will remind us not only of our history, but will give our young people an opportunity to learn from that history and learn of the families that made a difference in our community. I think for our community, that investment in partnership with the Tampa Housing Authority will be long-lasting and very, very significant and important to our African American community. Here we are with permit revenues. You heard me say earlier that we are on track to set records in terms of permit activity. We permitted about $8 billion worth of construction in the 4 years that we've been here together. Last year, just last year alone in the city of Tampa, we permitted about $2 billion worth of work. We are on track to break all kinds of records. Now, understand this, those look like big numbers, but the work that we permitted last year probably won't come online until next year and the year after when they get certificates of occupancy. So a lot of these towers that we are seeing coming out of the ground will not be on the books until next year. So moving forward, even though this budget is tight, it is getting better and better and better every year. Some of the highlights, we will, and I hope you all will be there with me tonight as we cut the ribbon on Sky House, which is the tower.
We'll be here doing land use
Oh, okay.
at the same, at the,
Good, well, generating more, yeah, sorry about that. That's more permit activity, keep developing. We will cut that ribbon tonight, 23 stories. You got the Martinet Meridian, which is scheduled to hopefully come out of the ground this year. Crescent West Shore, another 374 units. We've got a lot of activity in Ybor City. Harbor Island, one tower is under construction. Hopefully another tower will be forthcoming. You've got the proposed development at the Tampa Tribune site. You have a lot of things that are going on here. Tampa Heights is poised to start construction. The Encore project, which is the project in conjunction with the Tampa Housing Authority. There are 3 buildings that have been completed with some commercial opportunities that will be forthcoming. One of the things that I, and I know you are as well, most proud of is the completion of the Riverwalk. We could not have done that without President Obama's support with the Tiger Grant that he awarded us in 2012. I can't tell you, and I'm sure it happens to you, I get stopped probably 5 or 6 times a day from people who perhaps had not come downtown in 15 years, had not seen the river in 10 years. who had never walked around downtown at 5 o'clock or on the weekends. And they tell me when they come down and walk on that river walk, it is transformative. They never realized how beautiful that river is, what a spectacular skyline it is. And to come down in the evenings to see those bridges lit up and see the minarets lit up and to see our skyline lit up and to see people walking and jogging and riding bikes slowly and walking their dogs, I mean, really, really reminds me of what strategic investments in infrastructure can mean to a city. What will happen as a result of that, I promise you, is that investment of public dollars, both ours and the federal government, will lead to private capital being deployed along that river walk, which will more than recoup what we have spent on that. That was 6 mayors and 40 years in the making. Every one of the mayors participated and contributed to make it happen. It was great to be able to celebrate with those mayors when we cut the ribbon, but that really was a team effort, and we just happened to be the ones that were able to bring it in for a landing. Obviously, Channelside is embarking on a historic transformation thanks to upwards of $1 billion investment by Jeff Finnick and Bill Gates. Your role as CRA is going to be absolutely critical moving forward. It will be the CRA that will make the strategic investment decisions with those CRA dollars in terms of infrastructure and what we will do to participate with that. That is a very, very important role, and I am thankful that you share the vision of certainly the administration and Mr. Vinnick. I'm also very thankful that Governor Scott chose to approve the money for the USF Med School. I can tell you in no uncertain terms that may go down as one of the singular most important events that have occurred in the last 5 years in our community. Moving that med school and moving that Hart Institute into the urban core and creating an economic engine that's going to drive that environment for decades to come, bringing bright young people that will fill these condos, attract the retail, create a livable, walkable district is, and I have said this, even more significant than bringing a baseball stadium to the urban core, which I would obviously welcome. I'm not getting myself in trouble, so I'm just, Charlie would like me to, but I'm not even going there. But that medical school is really, really going to be important. I anticipate construction will start on the infrastructure probably within 6 months, and you will see tower cranes on the med school and the adjoining spec office building probably in the next 12 to 18 months. The streetcar is going to play an important part of that. As all of you know, we are looking at, thanks to a grant from DOT and working with our partners, Councilman Suarez over at Hart, looking at reimagining what the streetcar could be, possibly extending the line, looking at modernizing the vehicles. We got a grant from DOT. It required a partial match from us. We are moving forward with that study. So hopefully by the end of next year, we will know in more certain terms what the cost of that expansion will be, how far we can take it, and what that potentially will look like. But I'm excited about the ability to connect our downtown. You heard me talk a little bit earlier about the West River project that all of you have participated in. It affects some of your districts more than others, Councilmember Maniscalco in particular, Councilmember Reddick. This is a massive undertaking, but I also think this is transformative. I think it will take a very, very dangerous, downtrodden environment in North Boulevard Homes and create an entire new neighborhood that would support and pay homage to the history of Main Avenue and the history of old historic West Tampa. The opportunity to recreate 120 acres in conjunction with our investment in Julian B. Lane Park, which will transform that park, giving us 150 acres to work with, to create a new life for those children in North Boulevard Homes who deserve the same opportunities that our kids have, I think, for me, would be an amazing legacy for all of us to leave, to literally reshape and rechange 150 acres of property now that is vastly underutilized in a public housing project that is dangerous, that is gang infested, riddled with drugs. I think that is what government can and should do, and I think the investment that we will make will also trigger a lot of private capital being deployed. We established, thanks to you, a CRA in that area, which was near and dear to Council Chairman Reddick's heart. What folks I don't think really understand is the revenues that will be derived in that CRA will be entirely plowed back and reinvested into that West Tampa neighborhood. It will not go anywhere else. All of the development that will occur, all the private capital that will be added to the tax rolls, and the revenues from those increased valuations will remain in the West Tampa district to be used to improve that district. It's a great opportunity to rebuild and to reshape and to reinvest in a community that has needed it for a long time. I could not be more excited about that. We've got a lot of new companies that are looking at us, and I can tell you there are a lot of deals in the pipeline. There are some big deals potentially in the pipeline. Some of the companies, and again, I have to thank our friends at the Economic Development Corporation, particularly Rick Holman's, who has transformed that organization. These are some of the companies that you've seen that have opened or expanded here. We are growing the jobs of the future, but yet we're still retaining the jobs that we have here. And I think that is a critical thing for us as we continue to move forward. One of the things that all of us have always believed in, and our budgets have reflected this, is to make sure that as these opportunities avail themselves of us, as the prosperity continues, that every neighborhood has an opportunity to rise and to participate. That means the quality of life in the neighborhoods that we serve is important. People go home at night, they go home to a neighborhood. And as a city, we can't entirely be focused on building the shiny skyline while ignoring the neighborhoods. We've got to continue to invest in the fundamentals. That's what city government does. Some of the things that you have seen and participated with us on, we are very aggressive about code enforcement, which I know is near and dear to the hearts of all of you, particularly in some of our more challenging neighborhoods. Operation Win, where we go out there and maintain alleys and clean up abandoned lots, has been a huge success in some of our more challenging neighborhoods. Sulphur Springs and North Tampa. Our folks in Clean Cities and code enforcement have really gone after the flagrant violators, and we have taken it upon ourselves, knowing full well that some of these absentee landlords are not going to take responsibility for their properties. But if you leave that junk in the alley, it just breeds more and more junk. And so we have invested in new equipment, we've invested in people power, and we've targeted some of these neighborhoods. I mean, just to give you an example, in 2014, we removed 1,891 tons of debris. Now, but for us, that 1,891 tons of debris would still be there, which leads to decay in the neighborhoods, which leads to more crime in the neighborhoods, which leads to the folks who work hard every day, who own their houses, to flee and abandon their properties because of this debris. So we are aggressive about this. We are also training the leaders of the future. As many of you know, I started the Mayor's Neighborhood University for that reason. Some of the same neighborhood leaders that were here when I started in 1987 are still here. And we all know that we have to breed that next generation. We need young people like Councilmember Maniscalco to step up to the plate and take their responsibilities and take their roles seriously. So we are in the process of training next generation to do this, to perhaps serve as council members, but more importantly, to serve as community activists and leaders. They don't have to be neighborhood presidents, but they can participate. And that neighborhood university teaches them about this city, about the roles of the people behind me, the roles of the council, and how they can interact with that. We've had 4 graduating classes. We have trained over 160 neighborhood, hopefully new neighborhood leaders. The Nehemiah Project in Sulphur Springs, a neighborhood that was teetering on the verge of collapse, became a priority for us. We have demolished 53 structures, abandoned houses in Sulphur Springs, and have encouraged the private sector to come to the plate, using these empty lots as bait, if you will. 11 new homes have been constructed. We're starting phase 2 in the fall of this year. We've taken 193 tons of junk out of Sulphur Springs alone, just Sulphur Springs. But if you don't go in and have an intervention, that was a neighborhood that we were going to lose. We were going to lose that neighborhood. And so we have spent considerable resources and will continue to spend resources to make sure that we stabilize that neighborhood. Part of the legacy of this recession is we are doing a lot more with a lot less people. I mean, think about this. In 2008, we had 728 more employees at the city. That is a lot of people. We have a total employee base of about 4,500 employees. So 728 folks that are no longer here is a significant chunk of our workforce. But yet we are doing the same work. I think we're doing it better. I think we're more efficient. And those employees that have done this work for the last 5 or 6 years have done it in some cases with certainly less resources, less teammates, and less pay. We're going to try and change that in this budget. These folks work hard and they deserve to be paid for what they do. But 728 positions makes a big difference. And we're going to keep this budget lean, and we're going to keep this city lean. So even as we move forward, and even as this recession wanes, we are not going to add a lot of people. In the 4 years that I have been the mayor, we are 15 less people than when I started. So you may find this hard to believe, but I approve every hire that this city makes. I approve every, or disapprove largely, every travel request that is made by city employees has to cross my desk, because I know this. It's the personnel costs that drive this budget. It's adding bodies to this mix that drive pension costs, that drive healthcare costs. And for me, I would rather keep our employee base lean and invest those resources in things that are important, like infrastructure, like parks and recreation. So I'm going to continue to approve every hire and approve every travel request. This is where we started 8 months ago. We were down $6.7 million. That's the deficit that we were facing. That's what we came to you and told you over the last couple months, as Sonia has briefed you. This was our reality. This shows you right here that we were not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. And so we had to do what we have done for the last 4 years, which is find a way to balance this budget, to make sure revenues match expenditures, and to do some of the things that we would like to do as city government, that we need to do, some of the things, the priorities that the council has. How did we fix it? We got about $1.9 million more in increased property tax revenue. We had estimated conservatively at about a 5% increase in valuations. Valuations actually came in at about 8%. We reduced some of our departmental expenditures by $1.3 million, reduced some personnel costs by $1.4 million. Our pensions are performing well, so our pension contributions dropped about $2.1 million, which enabled us to balance this budget, to zero it out, and most importantly, to contribute $1 million back to the reserves. Some of the things that we are investing in, and let me stop here and compliment the City Council for taking the initiative, certainly Councilmember Cohen, Councilmember Monteleone, in addressing our stormwater problems. I mean, we all know, we live here. It has been a challenge and will continue to be a challenge for decades to come. Our topography doesn't lend itself to our ability to move stormwater quickly. There are pockets of our community that are lower than others that tend to collect water during heavy storms, certainly in South Tampa and in North Tampa specifically. We have areas that are difficult to deal with. I'm appreciative of the fact that you are looking at enhancing the stormwater fee calculations. This budget is based on your willingness to do that. The investments that we will make in stormwater, which are significant and will be meaningful, and for the first time in probably decades, allow us to have a very, very significant impact on that stormwater problem. You saw the county did the same thing. You're seeing jurisdictions all over the Tampa Bay area taking an aggressive posture to deal with stormwater. We cannot just continue to patch pipes. We just can't. I mean, that is our reality. And I think our customers know that when we say we're going to do something, we do it. The return that they get on their investment is not wasted. It is warranted. And we get about the business of fixing a problem. We know what the problem is. We've identified what the problem is. All of you know where the bad areas are. You also know with the plan that Brad Baird has laid out that investments at this level will make a significant impact on alleviating some of those problems. You can see where these projects are on the map, potentially. Obviously, there's a preponderance up in Councilmember Monteleone's district and Councilmember Cohen's district, because that is largely where the problems exist. it is a significant investment, as you can see by this chart, in stormwater capital projects. We are making a commitment to fix the problems to the extent that we can. If we ignore it, it just gets worse. Part of this includes ditch cleaning, part of this includes cleaning out the retention ponds, part of this includes brick and mortar concrete investment into pipes and other things. But this chart, I think, reflects the commitment that we have made as a city to dealing with the stormwater problem. I think all of us, and certainly those of you that were on the campaign trail over the last couple of months, heard volumes about our stormwater problem. And you heard the pleas to do something about it. We're doing something about it. Some of the investments in our parks and amenities, you heard me talk about Perry Harvey Park recently. It was amazing to see the families and the descendants of folks like Mr. Harvey and Mr. Sanderson and Arthenia Joyner's daddy that were there today, there last week, literally with tears in their eyes, knowing that their relatives and the contribution of their families was going to be recognized like it had never been before. It certainly was not recognized when they were alive. It will be recognized now, and that is an amazing tribute to the contributions of our African American community. Waterworks Park, you know, there's nothing that I love to do better than to go down there on a weekend and see those young children playing in that splash pad. Many of them coming from neighborhoods where they have nothing. And to know that they are there enjoying that bucket and that amazing splash pad, and to see the families picnicking really, really reminds me of what government's role is, and the positive and strategic investments that we can make that can transform neighborhoods. That park, I think, will lead to reinvestment of private dollars in Tampa Heights in ways that we haven't even imagined. Swan Pond, where all of you were, it was a partnership with the neighborhood. They came to me 4 years ago and said, we'd like you to do this, and I told them I'd like you to help. And so I said, whatever you will raise, I will match. They raised $500,000 thanks to the generosity of people like Norma Jean Likes and the Funk family and a number of others. And we took what was a nasty retention pond and turned it into to waterfront property. When you look at the private investment that will be made in Hyde Park Village, this will complement it. But this is another example of the city strategically seeding an environment when private capital is going to be deployed afterwards, and it will generate increasingly more property tax revenue. Clarence Fort Freedom Trail, many of you were out there as we opened that recreation trail in East Tampa at Osborne and 30th Street to honor a civil rights activist who led at the Woolworths right down in Franklin Street the sit-ins that led to the peaceful integration of Tampa back in the 1960s. Something near and dear to Councilmember Monteleone, the new Tampa Rotary Dog Park. We were out there that's another partnership with the Rotary. They contributed significantly to that, and the city put money in as well. That was long overdue and pretty exciting. We made some investments in Herman Massey Park as well. Included in this budget, and hopefully he is watching, is the $75,000 investment for the bathrooms at Reagan Park. Councilmember Reddick, yep. Councilmember Reddick, that was something that was near and dear to his heart. He made his case. We listened. We are doing our share. He is committed to getting the other half from the East Tampa CRA, but we are doing our part, and we are going to put the money in for those bathrooms. So, Councilmember Reddick, that one's for you. Other investments, Wellswood Park, the Courtney Campbell Trail, which gets heavily used. Those of you that drive down Bayshore Boulevard, and I swear I get more compliments about Bayshore Boulevard than almost anything that we do. And that transformation with the landscaping that we invested during the RNC and continue to change the colors really, really has taken our most scenic boulevard and our signature street and turned it into something that's really, really special. We have some issues with some of the palm diseases, but we're working on that too. The downtown interchanges, I hope you've noticed that the gateways to our community are significantly better over the last 4 years. Investing in arts and culture, we are going to be in conjunction with the Jewish Community Center at the Brian Glazier family JCC, going to be moving our arts programs into that facility in a very modern facility that will enable the participants. And our art programs serve about 2,200 people. But that art studio will be really, really something exciting and will anchor the West River development. Our aquatics programs, obviously, we run a lot of pools. We do a lot of swimming lessons. For the council member, something that I know was near and dear to your hearts, we committed last year to do the planning money for Cascaden Park, which we have done. That process is coming to a conclusion. In this year's budget will be the money for the completion of Cascaden Park, which will add another historic pool to go along with Roy Jenkins, which we did last year. We have a lot of programs that we do for young people. We've added programming at Reagan Park for seniors. We have about 1,200 senior programs for adults 50 and over, so it's not just kids that we are interested in serving. This budget year, I made a commitment to you last year that we were going to get about the business of fixing the deferred maintenance. We had a lot of roads that were in really bad shape. Platte and Cleveland come to mind. Swan comes to mind. We had potholes around the city that had not been able to be fixed because we just candidly didn't have the revenues. Last year, as a result of the budget that you approved, the commitment the administration made, we resurfaced 200 lane miles. A lot of it in Councilmember Maniscalco's district, and I hear just like he does from people in West Tampa that are happy that their roads finally got fixed and those potholes got repaired. 200 lane miles have been resurfaced or redone. Some of them have been more expensive than others. The Platte and Cleveland was an expensive endeavor, but those of you that drove that, I mean, it was like going through a mogul course. It was desperately needed. It looks great now. It's almost finished. Cleveland was a little bit more challenging than we thought once we got into the ground, but it's almost done. This year's budget, we've got a couple complete streets projects in Councilmember Monteleone's district in Bougainvillea. We got Armenia Avenue and Bush Boulevard intersection improvements. We've got Cypress and North O'Brien over in the West Shore Business District improvements. We have $500,000 in sidewalk maintenance that we are adding to this year's budget. This is a chart that I am really, really proud of, and I hope you'll take a second to look at it while I drink this water. Look at when we came in 2011. This is investment in our neighborhoods. This is the nitty-gritty stuff that we do in our community that makes a difference. This is where the folks that we serve really see the impact of your decisions. In 2011, the city was investing $10 million that had grown from when Mayor Iorio started at 2.6. She took it up to $10 million. If you look at what we are projecting for 2016, it is a $20 million investment in our neighborhoods. And that ranges from parks facilities expansion, sidewalk construction, stormwater, street resurfacing, transportation signage. Since we have been here collectively, we have doubled the investment in our neighborhoods. That is important stuff. That is exactly what city government should be doing. Some of the great things that we've got in there, something near and dear to Councilmember Cohen's district, is some partial funding for Friendship Park. We've tried to listen to what your concerns have been over the last year, and we've tried to the extent that we can, and obviously we can't get them all, make those strategic investments in areas that you have raised issues and brought to our attention. So these are some of the amounts of funding for some of the projects in the 16 budget. It is extensive. Since 2003, we have invested at $138 million in neighborhood projects. Let me go. All right. This is what our budget looks like, 2016. We have a gross budget of about $1.1 billion. Net is about $850 million. And this is how it breaks out. This pie chart shows you where that money goes to a large degree. Obviously we have enterprise funds and we have general funds, which are the bulk of our revenues. We have a number of other things that either absorb parts of that, from debt service to utility tax service. It ranges, but this, to a large degree, is how we look at our budget. These are the expenditures. Now, I would point out that very large blue blob. Yeah, a Pac-Man about to eat the rest of the budget. See these two gentlemen right here behind me that are smiling? That's their money. If you think about the magnitude of what our amazing Tampa Fire Rescue and Tampa Police Department folks do, you realize that it's expensive. Fully 65% of our budget, of our general fund expenditures, is consumed by the police department and the fire department. I mean, that is what it is. Those are departments that are employee-rich, but we are a much safer community because of it. I mean, I would not trade an investment in public safety for anything. The fact that we are 60%, our crime rate has dropped 60% in the last 10 years, means that we are a safer city. And I can tell you this, that we can't attract all that investment in this community if we're not a safe city. So we, I think, have got the best police department and the best fire rescue service in the country. And so when folks ask me, I don't make any apologies for investing this kind of money in these departments. We are a safer city because of it. Now, some of the other departments are a little jealous, but, you know, Chief Ward's got a gun. All right, this is the millage rate I talked about. We have not raised it, certainly since I have been here. We don't plan on raising it as long as I stay here. You should be proud of that. We are committed to keeping that property tax burden low. And let me just give you an example of what that translates to the average house in the city of Tampa. The average house in 2016 in the city of Tampa is valued at about $146,000. Now, with this budget that we're presenting to you, the tax burden that we will place on that individual for city taxes alone is $550. Think about all that they get from us for an average contribution of $550. Now, when you add in the county's burden and all of the other burdens on that $146,000 house, that property tax bill is about $2,025. But our portion of it, because we keep this lean, because we're efficient, is $550. I think you all should be proud of that, and that's a great story to tell. But here's the challenge. You can see in fiscal year 2007, we generated $166 million in property tax revenues. You can see that red line growing and growing and growing over the last 4 years. When all of us took office in 2011, we were down to $122 million. The fact that we balanced that budget coming into office in April of 2011, facing a $30 million deficit, with reducing revenues, increasing healthcare expenses, is amazing. And it's largely a tribute to the people that are right here behind me. Fortunately, that red line is receding. But because of the 3% cap on owner-occupied homesteaded properties, our ability to get out of that ditch using single-family homes is not going to occur. It will take us a long time to recoup those revenues that were at its peak in 2007. Now, when folks ask us, and when they ask me, Mayor, why do you spend so much time focusing on downtown and West Shore? Well, here's the reason. We can't cut our way out of the ditch. We've had to grow our way out of the ditch. And if you're not putting commercial properties on the tax rolls that are not capped at 3%, if you're not adding residential rentals, if you're not adding hotels, if you're not adding office buildings, we will never get out of the ditch. And so the focus on downtown has been strategic, and there is a larger reason for it in terms of developing our urban core. But the most property tax revenue is being thrown off by these commercial properties. So that's the only way we get out of this situation, is to continue to grow that sector and to encourage people to invest in our communities. Because if we have to rely on increased valuations of single-family properties, we will never get back, or it will take us 15 years to get back. Fortunately, this number is receding. This year will generate about $143 million in property tax revenues. The next slide is sort of how we anticipate this growth occurring. For fiscal year 17 and 18, we are taking a very, very conservative approach to it. The numbers that you see in purple are the property tax base contributions. The numbers that you see in red are the increase to the tax base. So that would be the 8% this year that we've got, increased valuations. And the green is new development that's occurring that we anticipate adding to the property tax rolls. I would submit to you that if we keep going at the pace we're going, 17 and 18, the green numbers will be a lot higher because of all the things that are about to come online or about to be announced. All right, this is the scary chart. We generate $143 million in property taxes each year. The cost of our police department alone is $154.6 million. One department costs more than all we generate in property tax revenues. And combined with fire, it's a total of $233 million for just two departments. And so that is the balance. That is what we struggle with every year. But I can tell you this, for the last 4 years, when other cities around the state were laying off cops and closing fire stations, we never stopped hiring. As you know, the DROP program has encouraged a lot of our senior police officers and fire rescue personnel to retire. We never stopped hiring. We have maintained our amazing ratio of law enforcement personnel to the population because I knew and I was not willing to risk that declining crime rates and leave our citizens at risk. It is important that we put bodies on the street, both in the police shop and in the fire shop. We built 3 new stations since all of us have been here. Our officers per 1,000 is one of the highest in the state. We have 2.7 officers per 1,000 citizens. By comparison, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office has 1 deputy per 1,000. So we are committed to keeping that crime rate, and the way you keep the crime rate down is to make sure that you are adequately staffed and manned, and the same is true with Tampa Fire Rescue. We have continued to add classes. We're not leaving slots unfilled, and in spite of this recession, when other cities were doing the exact opposite, we have continued to maintain those personnel numbers. All right, something else you should be proud of. We have, obviously, during 11 and 12 and 13, in order to get through this recession, we had to tap the reserves. I am very, very thankful, and you've heard me say this for 4 years now, that I followed Mayor Iorio. She had the foresight to leave those reserves in a very, very healthy position. Wall Street generally encourages that we have reserves at about 20%. As you can see, the City of Tampa has maintained higher than that, and we are consistently staying at that 23 to 25%. Even though we tap reserves the first 3 years, we put money back last year to the reserves, and again, we are putting upwards of $1 million back into the reserves this year. This is our personnel count. You heard me talk about how many folks we have less than we had in 2007. We continue to do that even though our population increases. I am committed to maintaining that personnel count at a lean point, just because I know what more bodies does to the budget. Our employees, as all of you know, we negotiated a 3-year deal with our fire and police unions, with the PBA and Local 754, as well as our ATU employees. We are in the last year of that contract. This negotiated increase is at 3.5% plus their step increases. For our non-bargaining unit employees, we are proposing and including in this budget a pay increase of up to 4%. It can either be a merit increase or cost of living increase, but however you get there, the maximum is going to be 4%, which is identical to what the county is doing as well. Folks, we've got good people working for us, and they deserve to be paid a decent wage. The years that I have been here, I've tried to do that. In spite of the recession, we may do, because for a number of years, they had not gotten any pay increases, and they make us proud every day, and I'm darn proud to pay them for what they can do. I can never pay them for what they deserve, but I can try and pay them the very best I can, and I'm happy to do that and take the heat for it. Fortunately, our general employees' pension and our F&P pension, our costs are diminishing because of the performance of the market, so our contributions are less this year. Something else you should be proud of is our F&P pension and our general employee pension are rated in the top 1% of 7,000 public pensions. Our pension is a model. Pensions are a model for how pensions should perform. By comparison, if you look at Jacksonville's F&P pension, they're funded at 30%, 35%. Our F&P pension is funded at 92%. Our general employees pension is funded at 99.5%. I would bet you that there is not a city in the country that has this consistent rate of return and this consistent performance and this consistent level of both city government and mayors that preceded me, as well as the members of the pension that have contributed on a regular basis, never taking pension holidays, even during the downtimes, making the contributions, sharing the pain when the market collapses and benefiting from the gain when the market rebounds. But this is something that is almost unheralded in municipal government, and I know that I'm proud of it. Healthcare costs continue to rise. Thankfully, the City of Tampa is keeping those healthcare costs below the national averages. As all of you know, we are self-insured. We don't get to pass that buck on to anybody. And so this has been a challenging year for us. We've had some major claims from some of our employees that have bumped the budget up. But as you see, that green line is where we are, and where the blue line is what the national trend is. So we have performed much better. We have been rigorous about trying to get our employees healthier, encouraging them to quit smoking. We have our own clinics that we set up that are very, very popular by our employees and very well used. We are trying to be preventative in terms of how we approach healthcare. And I think the end result is what you see on these charts is that we are well below the national average, even with contemplated premium increases, which all of us recognize it is just the cost of doing business. By comparison to other jurisdictions, though, you see where we are, and we are, with the exception of the school board of Pasco County, well below the increases contemplated by some of our other jurisdictions. All right, this is our capital improvement program. You can see where we are investing our money. It runs the gamut from the convention center to water and wastewater, transportation, T&I. These are all investments in many cases that have been deferred. We are trying to catch up as best we can. We are not there yet, but we are getting there. And these, if you don't take care of what you have, it doesn't matter if you build new stuff. I mean, you've got to maintain what you have. You can't, put a new addition on your house if you have a hole in the roof. These are some of the capital improvement projects in some of the various districts. I know this is hard to read. This will be included in your books when you get them right after the meeting. Councilmember Cohen's district, Councilmember Reddick's district. And a lot of these are not sexy things, but they're things that are important. Each district is different. For example, Councilmember Monteleone up in the north end of New Tampa is newer. A lot of the stuff is maintained by CDDs. The lower part of her district is in more need of the north end, but we tried to accommodate everyone. As you can see there, the lower end of her district is going to get significant dollars, including something near and dear to Councilmember Monteleone's heart, Forest Hills. We're going to make some monies available for some work at the Forest Hills Recreation Center, which I know some members of the community there are excited about. These are our enterprise funds. This chart indicates our water, sewer, solid waste, parking, golf courses. I can tell you solid waste is on firm financial footing now, which it was not when we got here. We've got new leadership there, and the budget and the books look good, and we're able to set aside money, which we basically had burned through before. That was a department that was on the verge of some serious issues. Water and wastewater are doing great. Parking, as you know, we have new leadership in parking as well, and OSEA has grabbed that tiger by the tail and is straightening out the parking department, which was desperately needed. This is something else that I know Sonia loves, and I'm just going to take a drink and let Sonia gaze upon this. I know how proud she is of this and how deserving she is of your praise. These numbers represent what I doubt any city in Florida and most cities around the country have achieved in the last couple years. Every one of those that is highlighted in green represents an increase from the Wall Street rating agencies in our bond rating. That is unprecedented. 3 of them moving to AAA, another one to AA+, and another one to A2. What that in essence means, it's like your personal credit rating. That means you can borrow money at a lower rate. That means that over time, when we do issue long-term debt, that we're paying less money for it, which inures to the benefit of the people that we serve. This is important stuff. It's complicated stuff. Most people don't understand what it means, but I can tell you, I never got 3 A's on my report card. But getting a AAA rating from the Wall Street rating agencies for our debt tells you that Wall Street has sent the signal in no uncertain terms that this place is well run, that we are financially sound, and to quote them in their analysis, very strong management, strong financial policies and practices, very strong budgetary flexibility, and very strong liquidity. This is Sonia's work. Good job. All right, so what did we set out to do? This is it in a nutshell. Creating new jobs and growing our economy, protecting our kids, enhancing our quality of life, improving our infrastructure, retaining and rewarding our employees, balancing the budget again without raising property taxes and without using the reserves, and creating a regulatory environment that people want to come and do business with us. So as I wrap this up, I would tell you this: the state of the city is good, but more importantly, it's getting better. The next 4 years together is going to be an amazing time for all of us. And as I look forward to what this city will look like in 4 years, when we pass that torch to another generation, to another mayor, to new council members, I can promise you this city is going to be in better shape than it was given to us. That's what we do as community leaders. That's what we do as parents and abuelas and abuelos. That is our moral obligation. And I can promise you that when we close these books 4 years from now, this will be a great place. The budget's balanced, lays the groundwork for what I think will be an amazing period in Tampa's history. I don't even think we know now what this city is going to look like over the next couple of years. But I do know this: I'm excited about it. I know you are as well. So just hold on. It's going to be a great ride. We could not have done this without your support, and most importantly, we could not have done it without the people that are behind me. So thank you.